Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network begins in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show begins in 5 seconds.
Morning glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. Good morning. December 4th, 2019. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Look around. There's lots going on this morning. You're in the right place to find about the news that you need. The analysis you must have on this Wednesday. Hey, first, thanks to everyone who's pouring money into the Salvation Army Red Kettle. I'm almost halfway there. I'd like to raise $250,000 for the Salvation Army from this audience this year, and I went to bed last night, and we were at about $108,000. I wake up this morning, and we're at $110,818. George Sradojevic, $25. Thank you, George. Vicky Dean, $35. Maria Pimley, $26. Lee Ferguson, $1,040. Mari Sullivan, $1,040. Robert Maratz, $104. $234 was donated anonymously. David Calhoun, $104. Stephen Vari, $104. Pamela Randolph, $25. Thank you, all of it. Those represent meals. Those represent Christmas presents for kids with nothing. It represents shelter in the coldest month of the year. It represents addiction recovery services, a room, a board, a place to work, group meetings, that which you need, a medical attention for detox and the shakes, people who need to be revived from the edge and they're walking around today, or you're driving to work today because you went through rehab and someone saved your life. You can give back at the Salvation Army Red Kettle at HughHewitt.com. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, it's always amazing to me how many people want to help. And I shouldn't be amazed because I'm every day. We have 21 days left until Christmas, and your generation is urgently needed. As I told you, this is the year that Salvation Army got booted by Chick-fil-A. Big hole in the budget. Been counting on it for years, and they got booted because of the LGBTQ lobby, and which is odd since the Salvation Army takes care of more LGBTQ people than anybody I know, and probably anyone in the country. Salvation Army Captain Tim Danielson points out that the money we raise this month pays for Salvation Army programs all year long.
And if we don't make the money that we need to, then we have to start scaling back throughout the year for the services provided. Utility assistance, rental assistance. We have a rental assistance program to keep people from ending up homeless. We have emergency food services, clothing vouchers that we do. We do emergency disaster services throughout the year. So a lot of those services depend on us being able to keep our doors open, the power on, and our employees employed.
It's that bell just tells you what you need to know, which is, the Red Kettle. And if you're like Dwayne, you've been intending to give for 10 days. I've been talking about this for 10 days. I started early because of the Chick-fil-A exile. And every day Dwayne says, I'm going to do it today. And then he forgets because he's a little bit, like Joe Biden. He is our Joe Biden. And Dwayne wanders off and he's in the next room all of a sudden talking about his lifeguarding days. And you don't be Dwayne. Get over there and give. By the way,
that is the moral of the Christmas season. Don't be Dwayne.
Don't be Dwayne. Don't be the Grinch. You do play the Grinch, do you not?
Happily.
And so he plays is it working yet, or do I need to come over there?
This weekend.
Oh, it's not up yet. Not working. Okay, just checking.
This weekend.
Not working yet. I wish you would take some video of that we could play on the show. Is that possible?
Sure.
Good.
You
good.
actually would do that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just don't kill anyone on tape, okay?
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about. You've almost killed some kids before.
I have had some fun with kids in the past, yes.
Yeah, so just bring us some tape of that. That'll get people to go to the Salvation Army. Now, I wanted to ask you before. In fact, I should do a lot of my reads, what we call them today. Things I want to remind you about before I bring you Adam Schiff, because you're going to get all mad. I should tell you, if you're already upset, you can't give the Salvation Army because the IRS is breathing down your neck and they're tracking you wherever you go. Axiom Tax Resolution will help you. Call Perry Cronin. Just please do. This is the way to get out of your Christmas mess. Everyone else is celebrating and you're in the doldrums. You're depressed. You're angry because the IRS, you haven't filed your taxes. You owe them more than $10,000. They're sending you those nasty letters. Well, if you're ready to find out how Perry can help you get relief from the IRS, then call him toll free, 844-8-TAX-PRO. Can you remember that? 844-8-TAXPRO, 844-8-TAX-PRO. Or you can go to online at axtaxhelp.com, AXTAXHELP.com. axtaxhelp.com. There, I did my good deed. I've made my appeal for Salvation Army. I've told people about Perry Cronin, who's the wizard of tax relief at Axe Tax Help. He'll talk to all of my people personally. And then I've got to tell you about this sign. I've been laughing about this since they put it up. I tweeted out a link to the Wall Street Journal story. House Impeachment Committee says Trump abused his office. I haven't seen this big of a snore. Seriously, this big of a snore. This was the big reveal, like who wins Dancing with the Stars or who gets, wins Survivor, who gets the date on The Bachelor. Is that how it works on The Bachelor? I've never seen a minute of The Bachelor. I never saw a minute of The Apprentice. So I don't know, the one who doesn't get fired. This is the big reveal. Adam Schiff, with his tie on and he's looking straight in the camera, reveals his big poster. His big poster. Everything on the, this is it. All that stuff we went through for weeks and weeks and weeks and months and years and years. I mean, you can throw the Mueller report in here too. This is Adam Schiff's big moment, and he reveals a poster that says at the top, "I would like you to do us a favor, though, President Donald Trump." Second quote, "Was there a quid pro quo? The answer is yes. Ambassador Gordon Sondland. Acting Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney. Get over it." And then Ambassador Gordon Sondland. "Everyone was in the loop. It was no secret." That's it. They don't have one smoking gun. They have 4. I don't even think there's smoke, much less a smoking gun. Did you get those 4 quotes? That's it. You put your big reveal. You put it all on there. What is the takeaway? But it would be wrong. There are all sorts of different things you could get on there. I did not have the sex with that woman, Ms. Lewinsky. Now I'm getting back to work, but, there are moments in time where people stick in your money. Have you no decency, sir? There are moments in American history that stick out, and Adam Schiff intends for this to be his moment because he's standing right next to it, and he reveals it. "I would like you to do us a favor, though, Donald Trump. Was there a quid pro quo? The answer is yes, Ambassador Gordon Sondland. Get over it." Now, that's from a press conference, by the way. The first is from the telephone transcript that Donald Trump released. The third one is from Mick Mulvaney's press conference, Get Over It. And the other 2 are from Gordon, our favorite hapless fella on Capitol Hill, Gordon Sondland. Was there a quid pro quo? The answer is yes. Everyone was in the loop. It was no secret. Do you realize that the last one is defeating of the idea that there was a conspiracy? Everyone was in the loop. There was no secret. It's a mess. It's a hot mess. It's a joke. I am not going to waste your time on the impeachment. I will play you a little Adam Schiff so you can get your blood pressure up and get to work faster. Cut number 9, Adam Schiff, about why they're doing this and torturing us with boredom. Cut number 9.
So we should care about this. We must care about this. And if we don't care about this, we can...
When anyone tells you we should care about this, we must care about this, and
Nobody cares about this.
Nobody cares about it. That might be the only thing we need from Adam Schiff today. Can you play the start of that again?
So we should care about this. We must care about this.
Stop.
And if we don't,
that's all I need. That's all I need. I don't care about it. You don't care about it. The American people don't care about it. They do care about things like, Ohio State crushing Michigan. They do. They care about Ohio State being at the top of the range. They care about the Salvation Army. That's why you're giving over at HughHewitt.com, and you're going to do so during the break. This is my Jedi mind trick on you. They care about the new Star Wars movie. They care about Irishmen. They care about whether it's snowing outside. They do not care about Adam Schiff. They didn't then. They don't now. By the way, yesterday when I started this show, the Democrats had 3 African Americans running for president. Today they have 2, and the 2 that are running aren't on the debate stage in December. I'd like to take my hat off to the DNC for completely alienating their largest demographic by setting up rules that booted Kamala Harris out and blocked Cory Booker and Deval Patrick from playing. Well done, DNC. Well played. Stay tuned, America. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show.
The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show returns from break in 5 seconds.
Beautiful
Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. One of my favorite carols is Bring a Torch. My version is Bring a Torch, Chris Ann and Dwayne. They got to look for Dwayne's work ethic. Honestly, they're going up to Disney Hall to watch a Christmas Vacation with Chevy Chase. This is their idea of a great time because Chevy Chase is going to do a Q&A afterwards. Am I right about that, Dwayne?
It's a 30th anniversary of National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, and so we're going to go see a screening of the movie, and then Chevy Chase is going to come out, hopefully not do politics, and actually just kind of talk about the movie, which is going to be kind of fun.
You are so in for a disaster. But
it could be, but it still could be fun.
It's just going to be a Robert De Niro rant. That's why I only watch De Niro and The Irishman, whatever.
But if it is a rant, just think of the video I'm going to have on my phone.
Oh, you're right. You will have a viral video.
Show prep.
Show prep. Thank you. I guess you can write off the gas. I wanted to let everyone know that I've got another column up at the Washington Post. It took a couple of weeks off for Thanksgiving, but I got back to it today. And sure enough, there are hundreds of comments. And I'm sure they're just uniformly, I don't read them, but I'm sure they're all for me. It begins, William Safire once recalled talking in the early 1990s with his old boss, President Richard Nixon, about events 2 decades earlier. They were talking China. Before Nixon died, I asked him, wrote Safire, on the record, if perhaps we had gone a bit overboard on selling the American public on the political benefits of increased trade, wrote the New York Times columnist who died in 2009. That old realist who'd played the China card to exploit the split in the communist world replied with some sadness that he was not as hopeful as he had once been. We may have created a Frankenstein, Nixon said. What Nixon and every president since, save President Trump, has done, or at least acquiesced in doing, is the catapulting of the People's Republic of China to peer superpower status with the United States. Even as we watch, President Xi Jinping is playing the Russia card against America in the reverse image of events of 50 years ago. This week, Russia flipped the switch on the new Power of Siberia gas pipeline from the far east of Vladimir Putin's country to the heart of Xi's. Despite its extensive oil reserves, Russia may not just be the Saudi Arabia with trees, as some have called it, given the Soviet Union's old nuclear capabilities being modernized by Putin. But Russia's ailing demographics limit it to second-tier superpower status, akin to that of other members of the nuclear club not named the United States or the PRC. What Trump has done in his nearly 3 years in office is fundamentally to redefine the U.S.-China relationship by emphasizing what my radio colleague Dennis Prager first gave voice to as a general rule for competing interests: clarity before agreement. Trump has clarified a great deal about China and its ambitions. The 45th president has also clarified, especially for big tech, but also for all providers of goods and services to China, including the NBA, that there are deep differences between the value sets held in Beijing and those in Washington, differences that need to be recognized and understood. Recent weeks have brought new and intense scrutiny to Xi's mandates regarding the Chinese Uyghur minority. For months, the world has watched the perilous push by Hong Kong protesters for the preservation of the one country, two systems guarantees given them, and the world, by Xi's predecessors. And the West generally, and the Americans specifically, are at long last fully awake to the reality that China's Communist Party has not joined any end-of-history long march toward freedom that inevitably results in the appreciation of liberty and natural law. What Trump, with the assistance of popular and crucial books such as Henry Kissinger's On China, Graham Allison's Destined for War, Michael Pillsbury's The 100-Year Marathon, has made clear is that the competition with China, though not a Cold War 2.0, is very much an all-out battle for leadership. Its fronts encompass every field of technology, weaponry, information age data, and artificial intelligence, cultural and international norms. This is a significant breakthrough, as Nixon's was in 1972, though of a completely different order. In 1972, the world welcomed China back into the community of nations, though not perhaps with the appropriate amount of recognition of the vast dislocations wreaked upon it by the Western powers in Japan for more than a century. Now, with China no longer rising but risen, a new era is in front of us, one that Trump has ushered in with typical Trumpian bluster and bluntness, and with great effectiveness. I'll tell you the punchline when we come back, America. It's over at WashingtonPost.com on the front page. Head over and read Hugh Hewitt on China and the United States, and stay tuned to The Hugh Hewitt Show.
returns from break in 5 seconds.
Tomorrow, the next day, in different hours, so every one of my listeners gets this. This is the book you need to read, Supreme Ambition, Brett Kavanaugh and the Conservative Takeover. Supreme Ambition, Brett Kavanaugh and the Conservative Takeover is written by my friend Ruth Marcus. Ruth is with the Washington Post. You've seen her on TV for years. You know she is of the left, but she's my friend, and she's written a superb book, Supreme Ambition, Brett Kavanaugh and the Conservative Takeover. Ruth, welcome. Do you know Frank Luntz's rule that you have to say the title of a book 7 times in any segment for anyone to remember?
I'm learning it. Yes. Thank you so much for mentioning Supreme Ambition, Brett Kavanaugh and the Conservative Takeover. So that's 1.
It's actually 5 thus far. And I tell people, be shameless in every response to every question, or say, well, you know what I wrote about in Supreme Ambition. So, Ruth, let's go through the backstory of the book. When did it seize on you? You're not the writer of books. This is a superb book, by the way, 5 stars. A beautiful book as well. When did it seize on you that you were going to do this project?
So I did not know until the week of Justice Kavanaugh's confirmation vote, when it basically occurred to me what should have been obvious, which is this is the book that I've been preparing to write my whole life. And that sounds grandiose, but it's true. I went to law school. Then after I graduated from law school, I covered the Bork nomination, which, as your listeners well know, failed. Then I covered the Clarence Thomas, Anita Hill hearings, where I, as it happens, full disclosure, met my husband, who was working for a senator at the time. And then and I've known Justice Kavanaugh for years, since he worked for Judge Starr. And as this was unfolding, I realized that there was an incredible story here that produced Supreme Ambition, the book, which is 2 things. One is the backstory, which I tell in the book, about how Justice Kavanaugh was chosen and how no holds were barred in the effort to get him confirmed when he ran into trouble. But it's also really the bigger story, and that's the second ambition, not just Justice Kavanaugh's, but the ambition that you well know about, which is that conservatives have been thwarted for 3 decades since the Bork defeat in their goal to get and assemble and maintain a conservative majority on the Supreme Court. And with Justice Kavanaugh's confirmation, that majority is there for the foreseeable future and potentially to be fortified.
About 10 days ago, I began to tweet out my comments on Ruth Marcus's new book, Supreme Ambition, Brett Kavanaugh and the Conservative Takeover, and it was all glowing. In the middle of that comes the president and shoot a shot across your brow. I don't think he's read the book, but I think there are people who have told him it's bad. In fact, if Donald Trump reads this, you're crediting him with Gorsuch, you're crediting him with standing by Kavanaugh, you're crediting him maybe getting played a bit by Don McGrath, but you are crediting Don McGahn, you're crediting him with running this show.
Well, the thing that is ironic about the president's tweet is not just that, as he tweeted, I do not believe he had the book in hand, nor had he read the excerpt in the Washington Post, but that, in fact, this is a book that, as you say, bizarrely, the president should like. Long after we're done with impeachment, long after the 2020 election is over, the biggest legacy of President Trump, and that would be President Trump along with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, will be his impact on the federal courts writ large, as you well know, Hugh, and on the Supreme Court in particular. And the president's willingness to make, at McConnell's urging, to make this a priority, his decision to stick by Brett Kavanaugh when the nomination ran into trouble, though some people wondered whether he was willing to stick, and there's a great story I'd like to tell about that. But this is a story about the president's legacy, and he actually should be tweeting that everybody should read it. But I was happy for any presidential tweet. That's
Let's
fine.
tell that story in this first segment about sticking.
So the scene is it's the day of the Christine Blasey Ford Brett Kavanaugh testimony, and the President of the United States is desperately trying to reach his White House counsel, Don McGahn, who is in the Senate, closeted with the nominee. And Don McGahn is not taking the president's phone calls, if you can imagine this. He's not taking the president's phone calls for a specific reason, which is that he thinks the president is getting ready to pull the nomination. I am not at all sure that that is correct, but that is what Don McGahn expects. And so if you can imagine, you've worked for President Hugh, everybody takes a presidential phone call, not Don McGahn. Finally, his deputy, Annie Donaldson, reached out to McGahn and said, the president's trying to reach you. You need to take his call. And Don McGahn, as only Don McGahn could do, told her, I don't talk to quitters.
Wow. I haven't gotten there yet. I am through chapter 6. That's a
maybe my
jaw dropper.
Scene. Yeah.
Well, I've got a lot of favorite scenes. In fact, I'll do one more in this segment because the book is so well researched. If you can learn things on every page, here I find that Brett Kavanaugh's basketball coach is Kevin Dowd. Now, my wife is good friends with Peggy Dowd, and they are both Dowd's siblings of Maureen Dowd. And what I'm communicating to you is D.C. is a very small place, Ruth Marcus, is it not?
D.C. is a very, very small place. And within that small place, there are different discrete kind of tribal and very close-knit communities. So when I started researching this book, my friend Maureen Dowd from the New York Times said, you should talk to my brother Kevin. He was Brett Kavanaugh's basketball coach. And Kevin Dowd told me very, I thought, informative and telling stories about how young Brett Kavanaugh, 16, 17, 18, would be the one who stayed even after the 90-minute practice to continue trying to shoot his jump shots and perfect other shots, because his work, people kept talking to me about, Justice Kavanaugh is very smart, but he also had a work ethic that really amplified his natural abilities, both in sports and in academics. And I will tell you one other basketball-related story, which is when Justice Kavanaugh applied to college, and he applied to Yale, and he obviously got in, there were two essay questions that Yale asked. The answer, he wrote both his essay questions about basketball.
I can't believe that.
Something about Justice Kavanaugh.
I can't believe he got in. And when we come back tomorrow, we're going to pick up there. His coach, Kevin Dowd, wrote, Brett was from the beginning different from the other boys. He was very quiet, just did his work, listened, didn't fool around. We'll come back to that. Tomorrow, we're going to do this one time an hour for 3 days so that everyone goes out and gets smart about the courts. Tomorrow, we'll talk about that 30-year war for the courts with Ruth Marcus. The brand new book is Supreme Ambition, Brett Kavanaugh and the Conservative Takeover. Ruth is a very good guest. She's also of the left, and I enjoy working with her at the Washington Post. Sometimes I send, when I post a column over there, it usually goes through a different chain of command, but if it's particularly specific to a legal issue, I send it to Ruth first, not for editing, but for, what do you think? Because she's so smart about this. She's wrong about pretty much every case the way it should go. She probably wants the court to dismiss as moot the Second Amendment challenge that was brought before it this week, and I don't. Hope the Chief Justice and the four conservatives say this isn't moot, money damage. I hope they revisit sovereign immunity for governments who impose burdens on constitutional rights that are held by individuals, including the right to keep and bear arms. But we will see. Her research is amazing. Supreme Ambition by Brett Kavanaugh. Also, time to do the market report. Brought to you by andrewandtodd.com. Andrew Del Rey, Todd Avakian. They are with Sierra Pacific Mortgage. They lend you the money that you need. Some of you are wondering, okay, I got a bonus here. What do I do? Do I refinance a mortgage? That might be the best thing to do. Take the money that you got, reduce the mortgage balance, get a better rate, really drop that monthly payment, and make your life easier. Some of you might want to take the year-end bonus and invest in a house. Or maybe you want to go out and get a rental property. Maybe you want to do something with it other than put it into the stock market. Whatever it is, check out andrewandtodd.com. Answer a couple questions. They'll give you the take it to the bank advice. Right now, the 10-year Treasury is down to 1.74%. That means great 30-year interest rate, 15-year interest rate, just great, great, great. But you have to begin by going to andrewandtodd.com or calling them at 888-888-1172. Yesterday, the Dow took a bath, down 280 points. The NASDAQ was off 47. The S&P was down 20. This morning, everything is green. Goodness, everything is green. The S&P is up 12.5 points. The NASDAQ is up 41. The Dow is up 128. As it seems to me, the market is absorbing the fact that the China trade difficulty isn't going anywhere. It's a proxy for the rest of the confrontation between the United States and the PRC, which I write about at the Washington Post today. It's over at the front page, the landing page at the Washington Post. My column on the great gift that Donald Trump has given the world, which is clarity about China. We don't have to have a Cold War II, but we have to be clear about the People's Republic of China. They are not on a long march to liberty. No, 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 no. And I make that clear in the Reagan Defense Forum is coming up, and hopefully they will make that clear to you as well. I also want to make clear to you how deeply grateful I am for the support of the Salvation Army from the left and the right. As Governor Perdue, now Secretary Perdue, said, your money is well spent when it goes to the Salvation Army. And this month pays for the Salvation Army programming all year long. There's a big hole in the budget because of Chick-fil-A tossing them out. So rather than go to Chick-fil-A today for lunch, maybe fast a little bit and send your $10 to Salvation Army. Salvation Army Captain Tim Danielson points out that the money raised this month from places like HughHewitt.com, the online kettle, pays for the Salvation Army program all year long.
And if we don't make the money that we need to, then we have to start scaling back throughout the year for the services provided. Utility assistance, rental assistance. We have a rental assistance program to keep people from ending up homeless. We have emergency food services, clothing vouchers that we do. We do emergency disaster services throughout the year. So a lot of those services depend on us being able to keep our doors open, the power on, and our employees employed.
You know, the ringing of the red bell, the red kettle bell, you hear it when you're wondering, you know what it is. It's so deeply ingrained in the American consciousness. And I love the fact it is. We've raised like $3,000 this morning already, and I want to thank Steve Scott, who 15 minutes ago donated $26. David Regal, $312. Linda Yates, $1,040. Thank you, Linda. Alan Levy, $100. Thank you, Alan. Steve Beseda, $25 an hour ago. Thank you, Steve. $130 was given anonymously. Thank you, Mr. and or Mrs. Anonymous. Mary Arajo, $25. $26 anonymous. Kim Razimir, Michael Zelnick. Thank you both. You're just amazing people. Bruce Johnson, $10, whatever it is, 10 or $1 million. We care and we appreciate it at HughHewitt.com. I also care and appreciate .com. There's the bag, the North Carolina Blue Lime Green bag. Third time of the day, third hour of the morning. I remind you, don't leave home without it. Take your Icarian and your resveratrol, your curcumin and your omega. And all of you know about omega. You got to be taking that every day. It's fish oil, right? It's good for your heart. Did you know that resveratrol, Icarian, and curcumin in combination with it also support the temporary relief of the minor aches and pains that attend exercise and aging, and you're definitely doing the former? Well, you're probably not definitely doing the former. You're definitely doing the latter. You should be exercising every day, getting those 10,000 steps, whether it's cold or raining, whatever it is. Do as I say, not as I do. Some days I skip when it's cold. But ReliefFactor.com, I never skip. Coming right back, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, the star of these proceedings, the Schiff Sham Show trial, joins us next on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 3 minutes and 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Hugh Hewitt Show on the Salem Radio Network returns from break in 15 seconds. The Hugh Hewitt Show returns from break in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, America. It's Hugh Hewitt in the ReliefFactor.com studio inside the Beltway. Happy to welcome onto the program Congresswoman Elise Stefanik of upstate New York. You saw her in the Schiff Sham show trial last week, and she was doing yeoman's work on behalf of due process. I was going to say the president, but it was really on behalf of due process. Congresswoman Stefanik, welcome. It's great to have you on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Hi, Hugh. It's great to be back on the show. You actually interviewed me when I was first running, and now I'm in my third term.
Isn't that amazing? Time flies when you're having fun. I forget. I know you're a Harvard person, as am I. Which house were you in?
I was in Winthrop House.
You and I both. That's why we
awesome.
connect. You betcha. So that is terrific. Now, Congresswoman, since you stood up against the due process irregularities of Adam Schiff's show trial, the left has put a target on you. And I have just tweeted out your campaign website so that people can help you get reelected. But explain to people how the resistance operated vis-a-vis you after you stood up for due process.
Well, I focused on this as a constitutional matter. I asked very direct questions to each of the witnesses, asking if they had direct evidence of quid pro quo, bribery, or treason, and each and every witness said no, they did not have direct evidence. Obviously, the left does not want to hear the facts, and they do not want to hear the truth. So the entire Hollywood B-list apparatus has been spun up attacking me, and they've raised $1 million to support my opponent. But the good news is the American people and people in my district are stepping up to support my campaign, which I hope your listeners will do. They can donate to fightschiff.com, since I have led the charge in standing up for the Constitution at these impeachment hearings.
Now, that is terrific. I didn't know that fightschiff.com was your domain, and I hope you continue that battle. I want to play for you just the first 6 seconds of his presser yesterday because it tells us everything we need to know about what just happened. Cut number 9.
So we should care about this. We must care about this. And if we don't care about this, we...
Stop. He's begging, Congresswoman Stefanik, because nobody cares what he has to say.
Well, you can see in the poll numbers among independents and even among Democrats, support for impeachment falls as each and every day goes by. And this has been a partisan process from the start. The fact that the president has not been able to have counsel in any of the depositions, the fact that this was done behind closed doors. And even last night, Hugh, we had a closed-door meeting back in the basement bunker, part of Adam Schiff's regime of secrecy, because he did not want to vote out the report in front of the American public. Of course, the report itself was made public, so there was no reason to have this in the basement bunker. It should have been done in front of millions of Americans so they could watch. He did not let a single Republican amendment, including one of mine, which simply included the witness testimonies regarding potential conflicts of interest of Hunter Biden serving on the board of the corrupt Burisma.
Now, let me explain to the audience why you're so lethal to Adam Schiff's show trial. Is that you're a center-right Republican, you're a Rob Portman Republican, you're kind of like me. You're sitting there in the middle of the party. You're not on the right fringe or on the left fringe. You're just right there in the middle. And you're common sense. I mean, this is a common sense proposition that this process is out of control. Have any of your colleagues said in a sidebar, Elise, we're in trouble here, where Adam doesn't know the first rule of holes and he keeps digging?
Well, I think many Democrats are feeling the heat back at home, and there are Democrats in swing districts that President Trump won, traditionally Republican districts, that are going to be in big trouble in 2020 because this is such a distraction from important work that we need to pursue as a Congress. We need to pass the updated USMCA, which is so important in my district, which I'm right on the Canadian border, making sure that we have that updated trading relationship. We need to continue tackling the opioid epidemic. There's so much that needs to get done that has been a total distraction as Speaker Pelosi has pursued this obsession with impeaching the president. And let's be clear, many of these Democrats have wanted to impeach the president since the day after his election, before he was even sworn into office.
So remember, follow her on Twitter at Elise Stefanik. Also go to fightshift.com. A closing question. I have been urging your colleague Liz Cheney to run for Senate in Wyoming. I hope she does. If she does, she'll win, and then we'll need a new conference chair. Is Elise Stefanik willing to step into that battle?
You know, I'm focused on representing my district, Hugh. I'm really thankful that you asked that question. I appreciate it, but I'm really focused on doing my job and always putting my district first.
Well, that's a good answer, but then we'll have to talk about it come January, hopefully when the House is back in the majority in 2021. Congresswoman, have a great holiday. Keep coming back. Keep fighting on. I know the ball has shifted over to judiciary, but we'll keep talking to you and fight Schiff. Fightshift.com. Now, if you can't spell it, it's SCHIFF, you Steelers fans. Go support Elise Stefanik. Let me close by saying we'll be back tomorrow. We got a lot ahead. We're not going to wallow in impeachment silliness because I'm not going to lose my audience. I'll tell you about, I think we have Matthew Elliott on tomorrow to update us with a week to go to the British election. I think we've got Ruth Marcus back tomorrow talking about Supreme Ambition. We got lots ahead. There's news every day. I'm just not going to bore you to death with the sham show trial that Adam Schiff started and Jerry Nadler continues. It does not interest America. It does not. In fact, we ought to be talking about the fact that the Democratic Party has a debate coming up with 6 white people. All right, they had 3 African Americans start this. Kamala Harris dropped out yesterday. Deval Patrick isn't on the stage. Cory Booker isn't on the stage. So the party of inclusion and diversity is lost in the impeachment forest, throwing their biggest demographic off of the stage. And they are panicked. They are really panicked. We'll tell you more about that. Don't forget the Salvation Army Red Kettle over at HughHewitt.com. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Generalissimo. We'll see you tomorrow on the next Hugh Hewitt Show.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by Birch Gold Group.